Thanks for watching this special program, Security in the Cloud, Government Innovations, brought to you by Amazon Web Services. I'm your host, Francis Rose. We have a lot of ground to cover in the next 30 minutes, including what federal agencies should look for in a cloud computing platform, how risk management applies to cloud security, especially for risk-sensitive organizations, and the role of automation in data center migrations. So let's get right to it. Joining me first, Adelaide O'Brien, Research Director at IDC Government Digital Transformation Strategies and LAVERNE Council, the former Chief Information Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs, now National Managing Principal for Enterprise Technology Strategy and Innovation at Grant Thornton. Thanks both very much for joining me. What, LAVERNE, are federal agencies looking for when it comes to cloud technology as they're thinking about transitions today?
I always relate it to an acronym that I created for myself to make sure I was looking at it the right way, and I call it RAS. They're looking for reliability, responsiveness, agility, and of course some services, and ultimately security. The objective is to really have that kind of responsiveness, the elasticity that we need now in order to really be able to leverage the data that we have, but do it on platforms that are much more cost advantaged. With the scalability of cloud, that's what most are looking for.
Adelaide, how are we seeing cloud really reform and rejuvenate the way that agencies are meeting their missions? We're 5 or 6 years into the cloud revolution now.
Yeah, so when you think about it, we call that digital transformation. And when we think about digital transformation, the first thing is basically leadership transformation within the agency. And that means that the leaders of the organization really have to understand not only the mission and their strategic plan and how they're going to get there and share that with their cloud provider, but we're seeing, even more importantly, the leaders need to understand the ecosystem that they operate in today and how that ecosystem will change in the future. Because that's really going to set up and enable then the right cloud provider to help the agencies share that information while protecting identity, use that information to make better data-driven decisions, and really connect what today are programs and data silos to drive, again, better decisions and to better serve citizens.
Yeah, I think Adelaide hit the nail on the head when she talked about the digital transformation is critical. The cloud is a key component of that, but the reality, when we look at the new technologies that are now coming up, the no-code platforms that are now available, all those things didn't even exist 3 years ago. So having understanding of the ecosystem is really critical to your ability to forecast your future and to make a decision on how you're going to digitize in the future. The cloud is a key component of it. It's now the platform that lays on top of that great network that everyone forgets about. But ultimately, thinking about your ability to leverage the partners around you is key.
Well, as a matter of fact, LAVERNE, when we think about, and actually our definition of digital transformation involves leveraging third platform technologies such as big data, mobility, social business, and they all sit on the cloud platform. And it's about government changing the business of government to really be much more responsive to what citizens need and providing constituents information that's almost real time and making much better data-driven decisions.
So, Adelaide, to that point about that you made earlier about leadership, that's one of the biggest elements when you talk about changing the way that business is conducted. That's one of the biggest things I think that is important to note here. And LAVERNE, I wonder if you saw this, but it strikes me that the cloud transformation and the kind of the maturity of the cloud model and its appeal to government agencies. This is the first big technology transition that's really required leadership buy-in other than just the technology offices. In years past, some new technology would come along and it would kind of be left to the folks in the tech shop to worry about. That's not the way that these transitions will happen successfully, is it, LAVERNE?
No, it's not. It is a partnership between the CIO and the rest of the agency. It has to be, because there has to be a critical understanding of we are now doing something with another partner, we're leveraging another platform or another service or another infrastructure, and what we have to be prepared to do is to ensure that everybody understands that they understand that we're managing all security risks, PHI, PII, but at the end of the day, we need to scale. We can no longer hope that our own bricks and mortar can give us the business continuity that we need, the security that we need, and also the agility that's so critical. Adelaide said it correctly when she said, our constituency, the public, really looks for us to be cutting edge and use the technology they're using every day. So within government, you also have to be prepared, and that means it's a partnership now. It's not just the CIO.
Mm-hmm. That word,
I was just going to mention, Francis, too, you talk about one of the first major technologies that's actually changed government, and it's actually bigger than a technology. And when you think about what cloud can do, first of all, it's the leadership, and the culture has to change from one of really asset management to, as Laverne said, having the IT and the CIOs really understand what the outcomes of the agency mission are. And then then cloud can enable all kinds of things. It can enable, we've talked about citizen services, that's a very key one. Mm-hmm. And when you start thinking about some of these more innovative technologies like machine learning, cloud can enable that. And then, your CSRs can leverage chatbots, and that helps them really, offload some of those mundane questions about the latest rules, the regulations, and some of the citizen transaction history, and gives citizens 24/7 self-service, if you will, but it also then enables some of those CSRs to do higher level skills in terms of solving higher problems. It also enables other efficiencies through email and collaboration tools, which, as you know, is a big push of IT modernization.
Adelaide, the Laverne referenced scalability a minute ago, and it sounds to me like that's an important aspect of all of the things that you just mentioned, the ability to use as much or as little capacity as an agency needs at any particular time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's right. And do that without tying up government resources to manage, and to really maintain those resources. And when you think of scalability, it is to support all the things we've talked about, but also some of the agencies that have cyclical requirements, or they have a lot of DevOps going on at peak times, or those who have deadlines for benefit enrollment. Think about close to the end of the deadline where they might need some extra capacity to process all that. So, scalability in government can help not only, enhance its mission, allow citizens to communicate with government when they want to and how they want to, but also really helps with a lot of that employee productivity.
I want you to put on your agency CIO hat for a moment, Laverne, and help me think through the balance when you're thinking about and planning for a cloud transition, the balance between economy and agility, the attributes that you want to make sure that you have, and security and compliance and reliability. They're must-haves in a cloud environment.
That's correct. When you think about it, the bottom line with the cloud or anything that becomes a utility is to do it better, faster, cheaper, right? So that you can have the resources to put in place the real needs, the application needs, the solution needs, right? And you want to be able to offset your costs in a very fungible way. But you never, ever, ever give up on having the right controls and security. You can't, especially when you're leveraging others' data and especially when you're doing processes that others are counting on. So the balance you talk about is a constant risk management that every CIO has to take on. You have to decide, risk versus value, risk versus capability. And when looking at most of the cloud providers today, they understand that. They understand that they're taking someone else's collateral, somebody else's asset, and they have to manage it like it's their own. And sometimes you are able to get a better platform with better security that way. So I think the first thing you do, you never take the trade-off on the security. You never take the trade-off on the controls and compliance. What you do is you try to get as much as you can for as the dollars that you have to provide as much agility as you need.
Adelaide, what are those must-have safeguards that agencies really need to be looking for as they're making these decisions?
So when I think of safeguards, I think agencies should think about future-proofing their cloud decisions. And that means taking a look at some of the vendors who are offering you cloud today. And you talk about security, Laverne. We've got almost 100 who have actually gone through the FedRAMP process and offered those security controls. But we urge agencies also take a look, what is that cloud vendor investing in R&D? And are they starting to invest in what we call innovative technologies, Internet of Things, cognitive computing, machine learning, artificial intelligence? And then as they invest in those and they launch them commercially, how fast then are they getting those through the FedRAMP process so that government agencies can leverage that technology as well? The other thing to look at, and I think this is very important, is how are they bringing in commercial, not only technology, best technologies, but also commercial best practices. And are they giving you reference clients from the commercial sector, not only about the technology that they're using, but the outcomes that they're actually able to achieve with that technology.
Adelaide, O'Brien, Laverne Council, thanks both very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Cloud computing's impact on government operations has also resulted in a greater focus on cybersecurity and IT risk management. John Wood, Chairman and CEO of Telos, joins me next. You're watching Security in the Cloud, Government Innovations.
Don't miss the AWS Public Sector Summit, June 20th and 21st at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. Join global leaders from government, education, and nonprofit organizations and learn how to use the cloud for complex, innovative, and mission-critical projects. Hear keynote speaker Teresa Carlson. Attend hundreds of breakout sessions, boot camps, workshops, and more. Register today at aws.amazon.com/DC Summit.